2020 is just over 24 hours away. So what we're going to do here at Baseline Jumper is we are going to go over our New Year's resolutions for 2020. And no, it's not going to be I'm going to get in shape and Ben's going to learn how to ski. Even I think you already do know how. So maybe kayak. I don't know. These are NBA themed New Year's resolutions. All right, Ben, do you know how to ski and kayak? Or answer the question.
I am a kayaker. I don't really know how to ski. I haven't been skiing
Oh,
since I
good.
was a little kid.
I was right the first time then. I don't know. You just strike me as a ski guy.
I should really learn. I don't have a lot of winter activities here. I need to expand my portfolio, Jason.
No, you do. You do. So I'm glad we had this conversation. Anyway, so Ben and I are going to go back and forth. We picked five New Year's resolutions each. And since Ben is so helpful all the time and just goes with whatever I put in the show notes, like if I put Ben, try and stand on your head in the middle of the podcast in the notes, he'd do it. So he's earned the right to go first. Ben, hit the people with your first baseline jumper NBA New Year's resolution for 2020.
Well, I think there's going to be contenders who make trades, and the contenders I'm looking at, Jason, are the Milwaukee Bucks, the Los Angeles Lakers, the Houston Rockets, and the Miami Heat. I expect a couple of these teams to make win now moves, and I think it's going to be necessary. I think it's so tight at the top, especially in the West, where I mean, honestly, I say that, and even as I say that, the same with the East. The matchups are really going to drive how teams finish this year. There are just so many good teams. I think in the West, it wouldn't shock me if the Lakers, Nuggets, Clippers, Rockets, or Jazz came out of the conference. It wouldn't shock me. Now, I think the Lakers and the Clippers are favorites, but I wouldn't be shocked, depending on how things shake out, if it goes a different way. I mean, right now, the Clippers are in the third seed. If they fall a little bit, you could have Lakers Clippers in the second round. I mean, there's a possibility that some of these teams are going to meet earlier, and based on matchups, that's going to shift a lot of things. And then you flip to the Eastern Conference and you look at a team like the Heat, who are struggling a little bit with the under or the shorthanded Wizards right now, but they're in the second seed right now. And I actually caught a game, Jason, while I was in Miami, and I came away very impressed. They had a win
Who'd you
against the
see?
Jazz. I saw
Oh,
them
you saw.
beat the Jazz, and I was
Wow,
very
good thing.
impressed, especially with Hero, who looks really good. I think if they could make a move to get a guy, I mean, obviously the big name is Drew Holiday, but if they could get even a guy like Lowry, who I think would really fit with their culture, that could be big for them. And all of a sudden, that could make them a real contender to me in the East. And I think some of these other teams that I think there's going to be some moves because it's so tight this year. So I'm really fascinated to see which teams make moves and who they end up getting. Um, I wonder what'll happen with the Bucks because they're so good that I don't know if that's going to make them more or less motivated to make a move. I wouldn't be surprised if they say we're so good we don't need to make a move. But on the other hand, they might say, hey, we're so good we need to make sure we come out of the East this year. So there's a lot to unpack, but to me, a big resolution for this year is those teams that I mentioned, the Bucks, the Heat, the Lakers, the Rockets. Those are teams that really need to make moves because I think they're one guy short. I still think those teams kind of need one more guy to finish their picture. That's not to say that the other teams don't. I mean, I think the Celtics, Dwayne Dedman is asked out of Sacramento. I think he could be a fit there, but there are other teams, but I think those are the big four who I feel like are really looking for one more piece to finish their team.
As we enter trade season, I think it's going to be a very interesting market this time around because as many good teams as there are, we've been talking about how the league is wide open. There are also a ton of bad teams, and some of those bad teams have some very good players. Kevin Love, Bradley Beal. So I think the asking prices for even role players to help put contending teams over the top will be extremely high. So I think come February, since now most players that were signed during the offseason can now officially be traded as of December 15th, it's going to be very interesting. And we're going to see which general managers really want to, make that move to put their teams over the top because I think the return hauls for whoever gets traded are going to be a lot higher than usual.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, what's your
So
first resolution of the new year here, Jason?
So this one's a bit net centric, but I'm a little tired because I get it. Kyrie Irving hasn't played in 5 weeks. He had the shoulder impingement, and now they're talking about something else wrong with him. And then there's one pundit who I'm not going to name saying that it's because of his mental health. Now, Who are you to talk about another person's mental health? I get it, it's your job to talk. And I get it that you're supposed to speculate and find stories and credibility. But you're talking about a guy's psyche, a guy's mind. It's none of your business what is going on in Kyrie Irving's head. Okay? This is a luxury season for the Nets because there are no expectations. Kevin Durant's out the whole year. So why are you going to waste a year of Kyrie Irving's prime having him play when he's not 100% healthy? I get it, it doesn't look great. He hasn't spoken in 5 weeks. He's not traveling with the team, but he's there at home games, and I think he'll be back sooner rather than later. But my hope is that pundits will stop questioning his mental state because it's none of their damn business. Kyrie Irving gets paid to play basketball. Okay, I get paid to work in TV. You get paid to be a rock star, Ben. Okay, but we don't sit here questioning each other's demons. We all have them. So, how do you think Kyrie feels to have his moods and his thoughts questioned on a national scale every day? It's just not fair to the guy. Ben, am I sounding Nets biased? Because I feel like I'd be feeling this way regardless of what team Kyrie plays on. It's like enough is enough.
I mean, I just at this point, it's reached the. I don't know if you're a Bill Simmons guy, but he had this
I'm not
term.
a Bill Simmons guy whatsoever.
He had this term called the Tyson zone, which is athletes that get to a point where any story you hear about them you'd believe. And the Kyrie thing has just it has gotten so just out of proportion with the way that things are reported with Kyrie, and it's become so polarized is the word I really would like to use here, that it's just a little bit wild because you just don't know what to make of any of these stories anymore. It feels like everyone has already decided their feelings on Kyrie Irving, and there's not many Kyrie moderates anymore, and everyone who has an opinion on Kyrie Irving is very firmly entrenched in that opinion, and that seems to be driving these stories where people have got these kind of preconceived notions about what he is and who he is, and it's just made it for such an odd kind of circumstance. I can't remember another superstar in the league who's kind of his thoughts and his mental state, as they've talked about, have been so analyzed and picked apart by the media. It's sort of remarkable, I think.
Probably not since LeBron joined the Heat. I think that was the last time.
Yeah, maybe when they lost to Dallas and there were all those
Yeah.
videos of him nervous, but I mean, even then, that was on the basketball court. It wasn't about, like LeBron went to dinner yesterday and he didn't tip the waiter, so we're pretty sure that he's upset with someone in the Heat front office. I mean, it really has gotten to the point, I feel like, with Kyrie where, if Kyrie wears black to a game, it's because he's not a fan of the team or something. Like, I mean, people have just gotten so into it, into what he's doing. I mean, I'm just excited to see him get back on the court and play basketball instead of
That's what
talking
I'm
about
saying.
what he's wearing, what he's eating, what he's saying, and all this other nonsense.
He was lighting up the league before he got hurt. Okay. And when you hurt your shoulder and you can't shoot, you're not going to be effective. And look what his injury's done for Spencer Dinwiddie. I mean, he could be an all-star this year. But we'll get to the Nets at the end of this. So why don't you hit us with your second New Year's resolution for 2020? And it's not to brush your teeth more,
Well, I
even though
mentioned about teams that were making a trade. I think that the Raptors are going to keep it together. And I was at the beginning of the season, I was a little skeptical. I thought they'd break it up. But, there was a really great podcast over this past week. Zach Lowe brought in some folks from the Toronto beat onto the show to kind of discuss the state of the Raptors. And it's one thing that if you watch them this year, you'll note that the Raptors, they're playing really hard and they're playing their guys a lot of minutes. And Eric Kareen and Bruce Arthur of the Toronto Star, they were on Zach Lowe's podcast talking about this, and it really did make me think that this Raptors team cares about this season, and it feels more and more like they're going to keep this core together, and they're going to try and build around it instead of kind of trading it off. And so, to me, I think that's a big thing that could really shape the season. I don't think the Raptors are going to win the title. In fact, I think they're going to slip in the standings. I think there's a good chance that they end up at the sixth seed. But I think they're going to keep it together, and they might be a team that we have to talk about in the offseason during free agency. So I think that'll be a very interesting thing to watch. And my prediction is that they do keep it together.
I hope they do. And it's a far cry from where we were, the summer where we were talking about Kyle Lowry trade speculation and Marc Gasol trade speculation. Now, I know Gasol's hurt and is going to be out for a little while, but that just goes to show how good of a head coach Nick Nurse is that now you and I are sitting here on December 30th discussing how they need to keep their core together because they can still make a run in the East, which is strong with the likes of Philly, Milwaukee, even the Heat. But the Raptors are right there. They struggled against the Celtics, but they had that home and home, and they could end up going out and doing really well. So I think the Raptors are in a good position here as we go towards the season's halfway mark. So my second one is about everyone's favorite team, the New York Knicks, who beat the Nets the day after Christmas, wiped the floor with them. I couldn't look at my phone for about 12 hours because everyone's like, oh, we finally got to win. Yeah, the Knicks beat the Nets. Woohoo. Okay, the Nets still beat you twice. But Knicks fans, anyone listening, Ben, I'm sure you're all ears. My hope for you, Knicks Nation, is not for James Dolan to sell the team because we know that's a pipe dream. I hope that they hire a head coach who will actually be good for the franchise. Now, Ben, the Knicks are on a bit of a seesaw when it comes to their head coaching carousel because they've tried the proven veteran, the guy that's going to come in well-respected and coach a young team. That didn't work. They've tried a couple of young upstart head coaches like Derek Fisher. That didn't work. They have a former G League coach of the year now in Mike Miller, but their next long-term hire has to be long-term. I don't care what age. It has to be a guy that can grow with this young core and the draft picks that they'll be adding to it in the next couple of years because they're not getting any free agents right now. So my hope is that the Knicks actually get a head coach who will do more good than bad.
Yeah, and I think that's a possibility. It's just going to be really interesting to see who gets zeroed in on for the NBA coaching carousel, as you put it. And I'm not sure because obviously my team as well. The Chicago Bulls may be looking for a head coach as well after this season, but we'll see how that plays out. For my third one, this one's pretty simple. I think the Celtics are going to show in the new year that they are a legitimate contender, and I think that they are scary. I was rather skeptical of this Boston team. I thought that they lost a lot of talent in the offseason, but what I didn't anticipate was one, the way these guys would play together, and two, just how well Jaylen Brown and Gordon Hayward were going to play. I think if Gordon Hayward stays healthy, I think there's a very good chance that the Celtics will have the second best record in the East this year because they just have a lot of these young guys. They have a good amount of depth. They kind of know what they are. And if you really look at this team, one of the things that really sets them apart is you can count out about 8 guys on this team that you really trust. And that's big because you look at a team, I mentioned the Raptors, they just have very few rotation guys. And it means that they're playing some of their players 38 minutes, where you look at a team like the Celtics, they just have so much depth that it's really hard to see how they're going to get derailed. So I think they prove that they're for real. And they become a legitimate contender in the East, even if they don't make a move.
From your mouth to Red Auerbach's ears. I mean, they've done a lot considering they lost Al Horford and Kyrie Irving. I mean, Kemba Walker might be the best point guard in the Eastern Conference right now, top 5 in the league, showing that he can blossom outside of the small market that is Charlotte, North Carolina. And I think the Celtics are showing that they are for real. Jason Tatum could be an all-star. Jaylen Brown looks great. So many young players kind of evolving into who they're supposed to be in the NBA. And Brad Stevens is just a hell of a coach. So the Celtics, I think, will always be there. Are they championship contenders? I don't think so. But whoever they play in the playoffs in the East, they're going to give a run for their money, certainly. So for my third one, I'm going to pay birthday homage to the king, LeBron James, 35 years old today. So happy birthday, LeBron. You may not like what I'm about to say, though, because my resolution is for you to get your 4th ring, even though I picked the Clippers to win it all. The reason I'm saying this, Ben, is because it's now or never. I think this is their last and best shot. Anthony Davis is going to be a free agent. I know there's talk of him staying in LA. But if Davis bolts, LeBron will never get close to a ring for the rest of his career. It's now or never to get his 4th ring. The Lakers are playing really well. I think they've peaked, but they could get lucky